Ben Simmons trade rumors continue to heat up, and could Tobias Harris be packaging a deal with Ben Simmons? That's what we're getting into on today's show. But first, we're less than a month away from the NBA trade deadline. So before we chop it up with some discussion on the Philadelphia 76ers, get into the comment section right now and give me one player you want Philly to trade for. And let's get into these trade rumors right now. Welcome into Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Let's get you caught up with everything going down on the Ben Simmons trade front. And also, could Tobias Harris be traded as well? Sixers rumors right now, juicy. According to Shams Charania, these are the teams interested in a Ben Simmons trade. And it's a pretty solid list. All of these organizations do have some really nice pieces who the Sixers could get back. The Atlanta Hawks, Sacramento Kings, Portland Trail Blazers, Minnesota Timberwolves, Indiana Pacers, all rumored teams leading up to the NBA trade deadline who could pull the trigger on a Ben Simmons trade. Now, Shams also did say that these are squads in addition to others who are canvassing the landscape across the NBA right now, having conversations with Philadelphia. More Shams on the Ben Simmons trade front, saying this on The Athletic: Hawks are an emerging potential landing spot for Ben Simmons, as we talked about last week, whose Defensive Player of the Year caliber play would surely elevate one of the league's bottom 5 defenses. In scanning the Hawks roster, it's obvious John Collins, who signed a 5-year, $125 million deal in restricted free agency last offseason, and Cam Reddish are among the players who could acquiesce a package for Simmons. It's unclear whether the Hawks are ready to put such a proposal on the table after making a run to the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago. And as we're about to talk about coming up on today's show, John Collins kind of unhappy with the situation in Atlanta. But something we're also going to continue to monitor less than a month away from that NBA trade deadline: could Tobias Harris and his monster salary, and a guy who's underperforming considering the money that he's making, be dealt away as well? Marc J. Spears, Brian Windhorst on the Hoop Collective podcast kind of discussed this, and both of them are hearing that Harris could be included in a trade package in addition to Ben Simmons. Spears saying this: I'm hearing Philadelphia wants to include Tobias Harris. Windhorst then said, me too. Spears then added, that is the word out there, because they can't necessarily get an all-star they want in return right now for Simmons, as the Sixers have continued their talks as they've talked to teams about trading both Tobias and Ben. Now, for another team to come in to play here and take on the salaries of Harris and Simmons, that's a lot. I mean, we're talking about in the neighborhood of $80 million with those combined salaries. So right now that seems somewhat unrealistic, but from Philly's point of view, if they can find a way to upgrade this roster, to get another co-star next to Joel Embiid, who really over the last month and change has been playing like a bona fide MVP candidate, then that would certainly allure Daryl Morey to potentially pull the trigger on a deal. And honestly, if Morey can get rid of both Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris, and in the process better this roster, that's actually a pretty good haul and a good series of moves for this team, because I just think that Joel Embiid right now, with the way that he's playing, and some of the other complementary pieces, if you bring in another solid player, this is a team that can be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Now, if a 76ers trade does happen, or if any move of significance happens, we have you covered here on Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. That's a big reason why we're the largest and fastest growing Sixers channel on YouTube, already north of 3,300 subscribers. So if you want to stay in the know with everything going down with the 76ers, hit that red subscribe button down below and join the 76ers family here at Chat Sports. As for John Collins, let's say that Ben Simmons gets traded in a player-for-player swap for Collins, or maybe Cam Reddish is brought in as well. John Collins is a really nice player. That's why he got that max contract during the offseason. And we're talking about a hybrid 4 who can do a little bit of everything. He's really developed his game over time since coming into the pro ranks out of Wake Forest, and that's why the Atlanta Hawks gave him the bag. This year, 17.5 points per game, almost 8 rebounds, a block per night as well, and he's shooting around 54% from the deck, which is significant because he also will chuck it up from beyond the arc as a floor spacer too, and that's something that he's really added to his game over time. And his athleticism athleticism, the bounciness, really gave the 76ers troubles in that second-round playoff series last year. He can provide mismatches against the opponent any given night because of his athleticism. He can guard multiple positions. He can play the 5 if you want to go small ball. He can play the 4 as well and kind of mix and match all across the floor. My question is, how would John Collins fit next to Joel Embiid? Now, he fits alongside Clint Capella, but Clint Capella really just occupies the low block, and that's about it because he can't shoot for jack shit. Joel Embiid, on the other hand, can spread the floor and put the ball on the deck, unlike a player like Clint Capella, something we'll chop up if a trade like this does happen. I want to ask you this, Philly. Who is the better player between Ben Simmons and John Collins? Simmons, I think, has more upside, more potential. He is the, I guess, more wide-ranging and diverse set of skills type of cat, but John Collins is fastly emerging as well. Let me know. Would you rather have Ben Simmons type BS, John Collins type JC? Get your votes in the comment section right now. Now, yes, we're in January, and the Philadelphia area recently got hit with a snowstorm, and it's even cold here at the Chat Sports Studios in Dallas, Texas, because we're in the heart of winter. But summer is right around the corner, and whether I'm here in Dallas or I'm going back home to the Jersey Shore and I want to hit up Sea Isle, Ocean City, wherever, I'm going to be rocking this Mitchell & Ness Sixers tank top, which is now available on sale, limited time only, for just $56, thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Mitchell & Ness, a legendary Philadelphia brand. They're hooking us up. So too is Fanatics. Really, you get $24 off, limited time only on the Sixers tee, so that you can be looking fresh at the OD after a day on the beach and after you're taking down some drinks. Chatsports.com/Sixers tank. You can get that deal available right now. I'll put that link in the comments section as well as the description. Now, I alluded to this earlier. John Collins, unhappy with the situation in Atlanta, and prior to the Hawks getting hot last year, that was also the case. But as we know, winning cures everything in professional sports. Shams Charania on kind of the back and forth of unhappiness between Collins and the Hawks organization. He said this: Collins, however, has grown increasingly frustrated over his role in Atlanta. Multiple sources have told The Athletic his shot attempts per game and usage rate have decreased in each of the past 3 years. Even as the athletic, energetic Collins has improved his offensive repertoire. The 6'9" big man has challenged the Hawks locker room on multiple occasions to play team basketball and commit to one another this season. Oftentimes, Collins has felt his voice go unheard. Who's the face of that franchise? Whose voices is more so heard? It is Trae Young. It is not John Collins. So I kind of see, because Collins is such a competitive dude, why he can become frustrated with the situation down there in the ATL. Atlanta, by the way, Braves winning a World Series, Georgia Bulldogs winning the national championship over Alabama. Man, Atlanta sitting pretty right now, bringing titles home. They kind of put to bed them being choke artists in that city. Hey, I guess Atlanta, good for you. Chase, what do you mean by saying John Collins is unhappy? And if you bring in John Collins, are we just trading an unhappy player away for another unhappy player? Kind of the word with John Collins and Ben Simmons is Ben Simmons is a player who hasn't tapped into his potential. He's been a malcontent. He's been somewhat of a distraction, and he hasn't worked on his offensive game to really maximize his abilities. The same cannot be said for John Collins, who's been in the lab, who's improved his offensive repertoire, and really is unhappy because he's such a competitive dude. Ben Simmons, on the other hand, has shied away from competitiveness, whereas John Collins has kind of been attracted by it. So I don't think you should have any concerns there with flopping and flip-flopping one unhappy player for another unhappy player. John Collins is a really good player, and at this point, with Ben Simmons' trade value being somewhat damaged, you might want to bring back an all-star caliber player like John Collins if you can't get another player back. As for Collins and Reddish, if you get that haul back for Ben Simmons, and maybe Ben Simmons and or Tobias Harris, it's not a bad haul if you're Philadelphia. I mean, John Collins is a player who can play multiple positions, as I talked about a little bit earlier. He continues to improve his offensive game. Honestly, the deal that he signed is a pretty team-friendly deal for what he brings to the table. And on the other end, Cam Reddish, very good player too, who went to Duke, was really a highly touted prospect going into the NBA draft. First couple of years, he's maybe he's been under expectations, I guess you can say, but you've seen flashes of him becoming a very, very good player and a guy who can really make it rain from deep as well, stretch the floor, put the ball on the deck just a little bit. He's a young player who does have a lot of upside. So, of course, we're going to continue to keep you updated here on Philadelphia 76ers Now with all of the latest 76ers news and rumors. And if you have a question for me, if you want to chop it up, you want to rip me and you don't agree with some of my opinions, that's fine. Hit me up on Instagram and Twitter at Chase_Senior. If you're new to the channel, I'm from the Philadelphia area, grew up in Westchester, been following and covering and loving this team for my entire life, and I love talking Sixers basketball. So hit me up, give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can stay on top of everything going down with this team leading into a big stretch with the NBA trade deadline right around the corner.